Welcome to Unveiling Death. I am Rabbi Jeffrey Weil. The Funeral Director Profession, a conversation with David Jacobson. David Jacobson founded Chicago Jewish Funerals in 1997 to provide a service to the community that was as attentive to the needs of the bereaved as it was to the traditions of the Jewish people. He is a leading expert on Kavod Hamet, the Jewish commandment to honor the dead. David speaks frequently to community groups, schools, and synagogues. David lives in Evanston, Illinois. David Jacobson, welcome to Unveiling Death.
I am humbled and honored to be here. Thank you for thinking of me.
You're welcome. You should be humbled and honored to be here. Yeah, so thank you.
You're welcome.
So you are the director of Chicago Jewish Funerals, and you come from a family of funeral directors. Your father, your brother, memories for blessing, were funeral directors. When in your life did you know that you would be a funeral director? Was there honestly ever any real question or ambiguity about that?
Oh, sure. I never really wanted to do this. I grew up every day washing cars, vacuuming rugs, moving chairs. And my dad had a very small place in Utica. And my brother, professionally never really worked for him. I figured I'd get my degree because financially I needed to work. We were not a family of great means. And my brother, who was working in Florida, got me a job here in Chicago. And even then, I figured I'd go on to law school or business school because I ran out of money in college. And I worked for this huge company, and they recognized that I could bring in business and people liked me. As I progressed and I got older, I realized I have a affinity to what I'm doing, and I'm very humbled to do what I do.
Once you started on this career, was there ever a time early on that you had significant doubts about it?
Well, I had significant doubts just about my ability. You make a mistake, you're talking about funerals. And every mistake that could possibly happen, I probably made. And was I good enough to serve the family in a manner of which I felt that they should be served? So just in my own doubt of self, I was like, maybe I should just do something else.
Right. How long did it take you? Were there times early on where you just felt like, I'm good at this, I can do this, the families are satisfied, I'm doing everything that needs to be done? Plus, was there a long sort of lead time until you developed confidence in that regard?
I think as we get older, we learn more about ourselves and more about what we're doing. And I've adopted this concept in my head, which is not healthy, by the way, but I pretend every funeral is for either my child or one of my family members. Mm-hmm. And when you do that, you're approaching it in a very intense way, and also that you want to make sure that this family knows that you're in there with them. And I've transmitted this philosophy to my staff, and I think it's been very helpful the way we serve people.
You said that you're not sure if it's healthy to have that attitude that we just mentioned, sort of like imagining you're doing this for a loved one. Why would that not be a fruitful thing to do?
Because it's just sad,
It's sad,
when you think
right.
about that.
Mm-hmm.
But then you pivot and you say it's not for them. I'm pretending it's for them.
Mm-hmm.
But you're doing it for the family, and they feel that intensity. They know that you're in there with them.
Right. What is there's so many aspects of being a funeral director. There's the emotional part, and there's the, logistical, technical, scheduling, business part of it. Is there a part that you think that you've been doing this for a lot of years, obviously, you've got it all down?
Well, I'm always learning.
What's the hardest part for you of being a funeral director?
Okay, from the professional side, you never get used to taking care of children. That's just terrible. Or, parents send their kids to a university, they experiment with a drug and they die. And the kid wasn't a druggie, the kid is just living life. That's just terrible. I would say, I am not good at As far as being a manager, with the staff, I have someone who helps me with that. I'm probably not the best business person because I don't run it based on financials. It just seems to work out that way. But I use three items. One is we look at, are we serving people? Two, what's the community saying? We look at surveys and reviews. And the third, it comes from the movie It's a Wonderful Life, when there was a run on the bank. So my bookkeeper sends me once a week saying, David, here's how much money we have. All the bills are paid. So, but I don't look at financial statements on a regular basis or P&Ls. I think the things I like to do most are serve the families. I like to market it. I like to give people what they didn't even know that they were going to get.
Right.
Beat their expectations.
There's a marketing part of it. You said that was number two.
Yes, I love it.
Mm-hmm. You love that?
Yes.
You think you're sort of naturally good at that for this business, or you just have found in the business that you're good at marketing?
I think I'm a good marketer in anything. I'm not saying that in an arrogant way. It's all about service. I mean, it's not that complicated. Return people's phone calls. Answer the questions. Treat them not as a business person, but you're serving them. And when it comes to the community, Chicago Jewish Funerals should not have succeeded with all the other people in the profession. And I didn't do anything that special other than treating people special.
Right. When you said return people's phone calls, I feel like you were sort of giving a piercing look into my soul. Is it a commentary on my not returning your phone calls?
No, not at all. Not at all. That did not even...
Okay. Didn't enter your mind?
Not at all.
Okay. Okay. So you have acted as director for your loved ones' funerals, your father and mother, and your brother, of course, which is especially sad. Did that affect your mourning in any way? Do you experience, since you're in the business, do you experience the death of people close to you in a somewhat more, I'm not sure, cognitive or clinical way, just because you're so accustomed to the process?
That's a really interesting question. So tonight is my brother's yahrzeit. So I'm going to go to shul. The answer is yes and no. When my mother died, that was the most recent, I felt like I needed to take the full advantage of the Shiva period, the 7-day mourning period. My brother, when he died, was a little different because that one I actually had to be more in charge of, and that was out of state. People live, people die, and what I've learned is, it's why not me? Why haven't the tragedies happened to me? And I just feel like I love the people that were in my family. I understand that they died, and it's not clinical, but it's not as packed with emotion because I'm around death all the time.
Right.
So even my own death, I think about all the time, and how my responsibilities need to be, taken on by other people, but also, the idea of I'm not going to be here anymore. My family I think they'll do fine because they understand, like, okay, it was my turn, and I'm just not a why me person.
Right. They've also been exposed to death just through the business.
Yes.
Right. So I
prefer, if I may, to use the profession as opposed to a business.
Okay. Explain why.
Because I think I'm more than just dollars and cents. And when people think about the business, it's assets, liabilities, equity, things like that.
Right.
And I feel like I am a profession, that I'm a valuable part of the community. At least I'd like to think that people think of us as a valuable part of the community and part of their lives.
Right. So I've been very fortunate to work with you and your staff a lot, wonderful staff at Chicago Jewish Funerals. And through my work through my profession, I sit with lots of families at these times as well. It's a regular part of my profession. And I also think about death a lot because when I'm sitting with them and hearing about their loved ones who passed away, I'm so often in awe, actually. And, it's easy to become kind of quotidian routine about this work, but there is something for me, and I think a lot of folks in my position as a rabbi, and I assume your position too, that makes me contemplate mortality a lot more because I'm around it, and makes me think about my own behavior in this life, hearing these stories of lives. Did you get that too?
100%. If anything, I learn, or I try to be a sponge and say, that's a personality trait I would like to do, or this family used to go away every year, even if it was 2-3 days, they got the whole family together, and just like just something fun to do. And on the other side this is something I want to stay away from, I don't want to be involved in. Oh my God, see the pitfalls. A lot of families don't talk to each other, and you find out why, and you go, well, I could see that part of my personality trait, and then you say, I need to learn from this, I need to be better than this, because I do think a lot about ending relationships, and how people retire or as they leave, their daily routines and have to go into nursing homes or anything with their transition, that the ending relationship is done more on a positive,
right.
And that we're not going to yell at the way someone cut a turkey 20 years ago.
Right, yeah. Let's talk about the word die and death. Many of us are very reluctant to say, he died, she died, right? That's just, but you have used that word. So if a family comes in and do you sense something from that family, from an individual, that they'd be more comfortable with a euphemism than that stark, very direct verb, die, to die?
No.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've had that experience. I mean, the one thing that I do correct families is when we go to the cemetery and they say, oh, we have to put dirt in the grave. I always say, why don't we just look at it as earth? Because dirt is a negative term. You're dirty, go wash up. And I think that that's a real word. I mean, it's just earth. We're actually putting earth into the grave. But I like the word die and death because that's what it is. If you lose somebody, way back in your head, you could sit there and say, they're lost, I'm going to go find them.
Right. Pass away.
What does that mean? I don't even know what the term means, pass away.
Yeah. No, I agree. Is there one or two underlying attributes that funeral directors really, you think, ought to possess?
Yes. Compassion and authenticity. Don't fake it. Mm-hmm. This profession is a giving profession. I think if done correctly, you want to be able to serve people, and you have to be careful with the compassion and the empathy and all of that. But be authentic, give of yourself, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. There's a danger, or I guess not a danger, but a hazard in a way, because the lines can become blurred. I've worked with some clergy when they're officiating funerals where I see them like getting really choked up. And at first, when I first started doing this, I thought, well, maybe they really, really knew that family well. And then I learned that they didn't. And they were not creating a sort of, they were being compassionate, but without I would say, professional and also comforting and reassuring boundary between officiant and mourner.
There's a definite line, because they're coming to you for help. You should not expect to be comforted from them. You are the comforter,
right.
You are the professional, you are the person who is helping them. Not to say dictating to them at all. Give the families the opportunity to make decisions. Having said that, you do not want to cross that line. When you go home at night, that's when you can put your head in the pillow and go, that was really intense.
Right. On the other hand, when we go home at night, if it was not our families, even the intense ones, at least for me, I'll say, there is definitely a distinction. I mean, I'm home at night and I've got other things to deal with, or I go to see the next congregant. And I hope it doesn't sound callous, but I think that's natural. I can
Yes.
be in the moment, with the family, and I'm definitely in the moment with the family, the mourning family, and then I have to pivot to something else. I'm in a different moment.
Well, it's compartmentalizing, but it is what you do. So you have to put it in this area, and then you move to that area.
Right. Let's talk about the business in general, and I use that word purposely. So Chicago Jewish Funerals is an independent funeral home.
Yes.
That is unusual, as I understand it, in the world of funeral homes currently. Is that correct?
Yes.
What's the benefit of being independent?
It all depends who you ask. I always find it interesting that, and it's not even just about being independent. Owning this, I can make decisions. I don't need to talk to anybody. But even my directors have full authority to do whatever it takes to serve the family. I'm not answering to stock or shareholders. I'm not answering to partners. I'm not answering to anybody. And I could still be independent and still have partners. But I like the fact that I can just do what I need to do to serve the people. And there are no boundaries. There are no no's. The answer is always yes. And being independent, that's pretty cool to do.
Right. And being dependent or part of a multinational corporation, I guess, you don't have that independence. You don't have that latitude to always say the answer is yes, because you have other. I guess it's more rule heavy, standardized.
A lot of processes. So, for instance, during COVID, we had private jets going to Israel to take people, for burial. So we're using our time, and there's no revenue attached to that private jet to us. But why wouldn't we help the family? Why wouldn't we go the extra mile? So it's just you're just serving the people the best possible way. And I think when people think about like our company specifically, they don't think about it as a business. I think they really think about it as a service company that happens to do funerals.
Right. Would you encourage young people to enter this field?
Yes.
Why?
I think it's noble. I think it's you're affecting change. I think you're helping to make the world a better place. But the young people have to understand it's a lot of work.
What steps would you recommend or guide a young person or someone changing careers into this profession? What must they do?
Work for a funeral home. Find a mentor. Work for a funeral home, and then decide if you want to go to mortuary school. But take the steps slowly. But don't just think you're going to go to mortuary school. Find a job. And I think they need realistic expectations of the profession, what you make, what you don't make, what your schedules are. I mean, I always feel that I'm humbled, and I say that I believe work is a privilege, it's not a right. And when people call me, I am beyond privileged. And I don't care if they call me at 2 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You just need to be present for them.
Right. You mentioned what they make and what they don't make. Is that can you assure a young person that is pretty much they'll be able to have a dignified existence financially?
Yes. But I also think people's expectations, are different. Some people have said to me, employees, that, it's not just about the money, it's about the work environment that we have. But this is not a job. It's not even a career. It's a lifestyle.
Right.
And you really have to adopt a lifestyle.
Right, wow. Okay, so you know that I have this important question at the end of my interviews it's a game, called what song do you want to hear as you lay dying? So, David Jacobson, I know your musical tastes. They're pretty hard not to know because it's basically Elton John and Billy Joel.
James Taylor.
James Taylor, okay.
And a little bit of Frank.
Old Blue Eyes?
Yes.
Chairman of the board?
Yes.
Okay, so you are, imagine this, Ad Mea Vestrim, we say, until 120, may you live to 120, but you are now imagining yourself on your deathbed. What song?
I think I'd like to hear the music, because that's what it is, Funeral for a Friend by Elton John. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to be wheeled out of the funeral home to My Way
It's
by
a double.
Frank.
It's a double. Funeral for a Friend by Elton John.
Yes.
A long song.
No, but cut it right before it starts Love Lies Bleeding.
Okay, so before Love Lies, it's a double song really. It's Funeral for a Friend into
right.
Love Lies Bleeding. So you don't want Love Lies Bleeding.
Correct.
So I hope everyone's listening to this. Make sure we get it right. Funeral for a Friend, and then you're being wheeled out, and it's My Way.
Correct.
Okay. What about My Way? What lyric in My Way is most compelling to you?
I did what I had to do, and may I say, not in a shy way.
Well, thank you for being my interviewee, not in a shy way, today for Unveiling Death. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Rabbi. It was an honor to be here.
Many thanks to David Jacobson. Also check out the podcast Groundbreaking, on which David has been a guest. Thanks as always to my creative director, editor, and son, Sammy Weil. Thanks to my band, the Night Owls of Chicago, for the music you are listening to right now, coming to Montrose Saloon on November 23rd. Feel free to contact me at rabbiw14@gmail.com. And thank you for listening to Unveiling Death, Eternity in about 24 minutes, every other Monday.